The abandoned guardian. On the desolate plains of Zeta 9, a world at the edge of explored space, a lone figure trudged through the swirling red dust. Kexatra, a genetically engineered war dog of the Kaethori Empire, limped forward on 3 functioning legs. His fourth, a cybernetic enhancement, sparked and sputtered with each labored step. Kexatra's massive frame, easily the size of an Earth grizzly bear, was a patchwork of scars, armor plating, and jutting sensor arrays. His 6 eyes, arranged in a semicircle across his broad skull, scanned the horizon constantly. Though abandoned, his training remained intact, always vigilant, always prepared for a threat. The Kaethori had created Kexatra and his kind to be the perfect soldiers. Loyal, fearless, and incredibly strong, the war dogs had served as shock troops and guardians for generations. But times had changed. The Kaethori Empire, once spanning dozens of star systems, had begun to crumble under the weight of internal strife and external pressures. In their desperation to maintain control, the Kaethori had pushed their war dogs to the breaking point. Kexatra's unit had been deployed to Zeta 9 to quell a minor rebellion. The mission had been a disaster from the start. Poor intelligence, faulty equipment, and a surprising level of resistance had decimated the Kaethori forces. Rather than risk word of their defeat spreading, the Kaethori commanders had made a cold calculation. They triggered the self-destruct mechanisms in their ships and equipment, intending to leave no trace of their presence. Kexatra and his fellow war dogs were meant to die alongside their masters. But Kexatra had survived. Badly wounded and stripped of his advanced weaponry, he had crawled from the wreckage. For days he had wandered the barren landscape, his cybernetic systems slowly failing. His once glossy black fur was matted with blood and grime. The proud war dog was a shadow of his former self. As Kexatra crested a small rise, his enhanced vision picked up an anomaly on the horizon. A plume of dust, kicked up by something moving at high speed. For a moment, hope flared in his chest. Had the Kaethori returned for him? But no, the silhouette that emerged from the dust cloud was unfamiliar. The vehicle that approached was unlike anything Kexatra had encountered before. It moved on 6 massive wheels, its hull covered in sensors and communications equipment. As it drew closer, Kexatra's translator picked up snatches of conversation in a language he didn't recognize. "Holy shit, Marcus. Are you seeing this?" A female voice crackled over the comm system. "I'm seeing it, Elena, but I'm not believing it," a male voice responded. "What the hell is that thing?" Kexatra stood his ground as the vehicle slowed to a stop about 50 meters away. His combat subroutines, ingrained at the genetic level, screamed at him to attack or flee. But he was too weak, too damaged to do either. All he could do was wait and see what these strange new beings would do. A hatch on the side of the vehicle slid open and 2 figures emerged. They were bipedal, like the Kaethori, but smaller and softer looking. They wore environment suits that protected them from Zeta 9's harsh atmosphere, but Kexatra could see their faces through transparent helmets. "Easy there, big guy," the female, Elena, said softly. She held up her hands, palms out, in what Kexatra recognized as a non-threatening gesture. "We're not here to hurt you." Marcus, the male, was busy scanning Kexatra with a handheld device. "Elena, these readings are off the charts. Whatever this creature is, it's not natural. Look at the cybernetic implants, the genetic modifications. This is some serious tech." Kexatra's legs trembled with exhaustion. He wanted to respond, to ask for help, but his vocal synthesizer had been damaged in the crash. All he could manage was a low, rumbling growl. Elena took a cautious step forward. "It's hurt, Marcus. Look at that leg. And those wounds. It's been through hell." Marcus grabbed her arm. "Careful. We don't know what this thing is capable of. It could be dangerous." Elena shook off his hand. "It's dying, Marcus. We can't just leave it here." As if to prove her point, Kexatra's legs finally gave out. He collapsed to the ground, his massive body kicking up a cloud of red dust. The last thing he saw before losing consciousness was Elena rushing towards him, her face a mask of concern. When Kexatra awoke, he found himself in a strange environment. The air was cool and clean, a far cry from the harsh atmosphere of Zeta 9. He was lying on some sort of padded surface, surrounded by blinking lights and unfamiliar equipment. "Welcome back to the land of the living, big guy," Elena's voice came from nearby. Kexatra turned his head to see her sitting at a console, monitoring his vital signs. "You gave us quite a scare there." Marcus entered the room, his face a mixture of curiosity and caution. "How's our patient doing?" "Better," Elena replied. "The nanites are repairing the damage to his organic systems. The cybernetics are going to take more work, though. I've never seen anything like them." Kexatra tried to move, but found himself restrained. Not with physical bonds, but with some kind of energy field that held him gently but firmly in place. "Easy there," Marcus said, noticing Kexatra's attempt to rise. "We're not sure if you're friendly yet, so we're playing it safe. Can you understand us?" Kexatra nodded slowly, his translator having finally recalibrated to their language. Elena's eyes widened. "You can understand us? Can you speak?" Kexatra tried his vocal synthesizer again. This time, a rough approximation of their language emerged. "Yes, speak, Kexatra." "Kexatra, is that your name?" Elena asked, leaning forward with excitement. Kexatra nodded again. "What, you?" "We're humans," Marcus explained. "I'm Marcus, and this is Elena. We're explorers from a planet called Earth." The word Earth triggered something in Kexatra's databanks, a world that Kethori had considered invading long ago, but had ultimately decided against. A world of great potential and greater danger. "Why help?" Kexatra managed to ask. Elena smiled warmly. "Because you needed it. That's what humans do. We help those in need, even if they're different from us." As Kexatra processed this information, he felt something he hadn't experienced in a long time: hope. These humans, with their strange ways and advanced technology, might be the key to his survival, and perhaps to something even greater. Little did Kexatra know that his encounter with Elena and Marcus was just the beginning. The abandoned war dog and the human explorers were about to embark on an adventure that would shake the foundations of the galaxy and redefine the meaning of loyalty, courage, and what it truly means to be sentient. First contact. As the days passed, Kexatra's strength slowly returned. The human's advanced medical technology, combined with his own genetically enhanced healing abilities, worked wonders. Elena spent hours each day working on his cybernetic systems, marveling at their complexity while slowly bringing them back online. "You know, Kex," Elena said one afternoon as she tinkered with his damaged leg, "I've never seen anything quite like you. The level of genetic engineering and cybernetic integration is, well, it's beyond anything we've achieved." Kexatra, now able to communicate more clearly thanks to Elena's repairs, replied, "Kethori created us to be perfect warriors, but perfection comes at a cost." Marcus, who had been analyzing data from Kexatra's neural implants, looked up with interest. "The Kethori? Is that the species that made you?" Kexatra nodded, his massive head dipping slightly. "Empire spanning many stars, powerful, ruthless. They saw other species as threats or resources." Elena's face darkened. "And they just left you here to die. After all you've done for them." "Mission failure," Kexatra explained, his voice tinged with a sadness that surprised even him. "Kethori do not tolerate failure. Better to erase all evidence than admit defeat." Marcus whistled low. "Sounds like a real charming bunch. No offense, Kex, but I'm glad we found you instead of them." As they talked, alarms suddenly blared throughout the human's base. Marcus rushed to a nearby console, his fingers flying over the controls. "We've got incoming. Multiple ships entering the atmosphere." Elena quickly sealed up the access panel on Kexatra's leg. "Kethori?" Kexaptra's enhanced senses were already scanning the skies. No, different, unknown. The human's base, a modular structure designed for quick deployment and evacuation, shuddered as the unknown ships passed overhead. Through the viewport, Kexatra could see 3 sleek vessels, their hulls shimmering with some kind of energy field. "They're hailing us," Marcus announced, his voice tense. A moment later, a holographic image flickered to life in the center of the room. The being it depicted was unlike anything Kexatra had ever seen. It had a vaguely humanoid shape, but its body seemed to be composed of swirling energy contained within a translucent exoskeleton. "Greetings, beings of Earth," the creature said, its voice resonating with an otherworldly harmonic. "I am Zixlara of the Ethereal Collective. We have been observing your activities on this world with great interest." Elena stepped forward, her scientific curiosity overriding her caution. "Ethereal Collective. We've never heard of you." Zixlara's form shimmered, the energy within its body pulsing in what might have been amusement. "We prefer to remain unseen, but recent events have forced us to reconsider our policy of non-intervention." Marcus, ever the pragmatist, cut to the chase. "What kind of events? And what do you want with us?" "Your discovery of the Cathori war dog has set in motion a chain of events that threatens the balance of power in this sector of the galaxy," Zixlara explained. "The Cathori Empire, while diminished, still poses a significant threat. They will not take kindly to their technology falling into the hands of an emerging species like yours." Kexatra, who had remained silent until now, spoke up. "Cathori abandoned me. Humans saved me. My loyalty is to them now." Zixlara's attention shifted to Kexatra, the energy within its form swirling more rapidly. "Fascinating. The Cathori believed their conditioning to be unbreakable. Yet here you stand, allied with these humans after mere days in their company." "It's called compassion," Elena said firmly, something the Cathori seemed to lack. The ethereal's form pulsed again. "Indeed, it is this very quality that has drawn our attention. Humanity's potential is intriguing, but it also makes you a target." As if on cue, new alarms began to sound. Marcus swore under his breath as he checked the readings. Multiple ships dropping out of FTL at the edge of the system. Big ones. Zixlara's voice took on a note of urgency. "The Cathori come. They seek to reclaim their property and eliminate all evidence of their failure. You must make a choice, humans. Stay and face certain destruction, or come with us and learn the truth about the galaxy you've unwittingly stumbled into." Elena and Marcus exchanged a look, years of partnership allowing them to communicate volumes in a single glance. Marcus nodded, and Elena turned back to the ethereal. "We'll come with you," she said. "But Kexatra comes too. We won't abandon him." Zixlara's form brightened. "A wise decision, and a telling one. Prepare yourselves. The journey ahead will challenge everything you thought you knew about the universe." As the humans rushed to gather what equipment they could, Kexatra felt a strange sensation in his chest. It took him a moment to recognize it as pride. These small, fragile beings had shown him more loyalty in a few days than the Cathori had in a lifetime. The ethereal ships extended shimmering energy beams, enveloping the human's base and lifting it whole into their cargo hold. As they ascended through Zeta 9's atmosphere, Kexatra caught a glimpse of the Cathori war fleet emerging from hyperspace. "Don't worry, big guy," Elena said, placing a reassuring hand on Kexatra's flank. "We're in this together now." As the ethereal ships jumped to FTL, leaving the Cathori far behind, Kexatra realized that his life had changed forever. He was no longer a simple war dog, bound by programming and conditioning. He was something new, something the galaxy had never seen before. And as he looked at the determined faces of Elena and Marcus, he knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. The abandoned Guardian had found a new purpose, and the humans had gained an ally unlike any other. Little did they know that their impromptu alliance would soon be tested in ways none of them could have imagined, as the true nature of the galactic conflict began to unfold around them. The human touch. The journey aboard the ethereal ship was a revelation for both the humans and Kexatra. The vessel's interior defied conventional physics, with corridors that seemed to stretch infinitely one moment and contract the next. Gravity shifted subtly as they moved, always keeping them oriented towards the nearest surface. Elena was in her element, her scientific mind buzzing with questions and theories. The way they manipulate space-time, it's incredible. Marcus, are you seeing this? Marcus, ever the more cautious of the pair, nodded slowly. I'm seeing it, but I'm not sure I'm believing it. We need to stay alert. We don't know their true intentions yet. Kexatra, walking between them, found himself agreeing with Marcus. His combat-oriented mind was constantly analyzing their surroundings, looking for potential threats or escape routes. But he had to admit, the technology around them was far beyond anything the Kethori had ever achieved. Zixlara materialized before them, its energy form pulsing gently. Your curiosity is refreshing. It has been many cycles since we encountered a species so eager to learn. Elena couldn't contain herself. How does your ship work? The way you manipulate gravity and space, it's like nothing we've ever seen. The ethereal's form shimmered in what might have been amusement. Your species grasps at the edges of understanding. You see space and time as separate entities to be bent and warped. We see them as one. We do not move through space, we persuade it to move around us. Marcus frowned. That's all very impressive, but it doesn't explain why you've brought us here. What's really going on? Why are the Kethori after us? Zixlara's form dimmed slightly. The truth is complex. The galaxy stands on the brink of a conflict that has been brewing for millennia. The Kethori are but one piece of a larger puzzle. As they spoke, they entered a vast chamber. Holographic displays filled the air, showing star systems, ship movements, and data streams that boggled the mind. At the center stood a group of other ethereals, their energy forms intertwining in what seemed to be deep discussion. One of them, its form a deeper shade of blue, approached. I am Nyx Photal, overseer of the Ethereal Collective. Your arrival has accelerated events long in motion. We must decide how to proceed. Kexatra stepped forward, his massive form dwarfing the humans beside him. Decide what? Why are we here? Nyx Photal's form pulsed rapidly. To determine the fate of the galaxy, of course. Your human allies possess a quality rare in the cosmos, adaptability. And you, War Dog, have demonstrated an ability to break your conditioning that we thought impossible. Elena and Marcus exchanged glances. This was far beyond what they had expected when they set out to explore an uncharted world. You see, Zixlara continued, the Kethori are not the true threat. They are but pawns in a game played by beings far more ancient and terrible. Beings that would remake the galaxy in their own image, extinguishing all forms of life they deem imperfect. Marcus's eyes narrowed. And you want us to help you fight these beings? We're just two humans and a very impressive war dog. What can we possibly do against a threat of that scale? Nyx Photal's form brightened. It is not your physical capabilities that interest us, but your potential. Humanity's history is one of constant adaptation, of finding solutions where none seemed possible, and Kexatra's ability to overcome his programming suggests a level of neural plasticity that even we find remarkable. Elena, her scientific mind racing, began to put the pieces together. You want to study us, to see if there's something in our biology, our thought processes, that could help in this conflict. Precisely, Zixlara confirmed. But more than that, we believe you may be the key to awakening other species to their true potential, to forming alliances that could stand against the coming darkness. Kexatra, who had been silent for a while, suddenly spoke. The Kethori, they are not beyond redemption. With the right influence, they too could change. The ethereal's forms pulsed with surprise. Nyx Photal turned to Kexatra. You would advocate for those who abandoned you. Who created you for war and discarded you when you were no longer useful? Kexatra's 6 eyes blinked in sequence. The humans showed me another way. Perhaps the Kethori, too, can learn. Marcus nodded slowly. Kex is right. If we're going to face a threat to the entire galaxy, we need all the allies we can get, even former enemies. Elena stepped forward, her eyes shining with determination. So, what's the plan? How do we start? Nick's Votal's form brightened to an almost blinding intensity. We begin with you. Your willingness to embrace the unknown, to adapt to new situations, is your greatest strength. We will help you unlock abilities you never knew you possessed. Over the next few weeks, Elena and Marcus underwent a series of treatments and exercises designed to enhance their natural abilities. Kexatra, too, found his cybernetic systems upgraded beyond anything the Kethori had ever conceived. Elena discovered she could interface directly with technology, her mind able to process vast amounts of data in seconds. Marcus developed an uncanny ability to predict probable outcomes, his tactical skills enhanced to near precognitive levels. Kexatra, already a formidable warrior, found his strength and speed increased tenfold. More importantly, he gained the ability to interface with and control multiple weapon systems simultaneously, becoming a one-dog army. As they trained and grew, news came of Kethori ships attacking ethereal outposts. The conflict was escalating, and time was running out. We need to make a move, Marcus said one day, studying a holographic map of Kethori space. Hit them where it hurts, show them we're not to be trifled with. Elena nodded, her eyes glowing faintly as she processed tactical data. I agree, but we need to be smart about this. We're not just fighting the Kethori, we're trying to save them from themselves. Kexatra, his voice resonating with newfound confidence, added, I know their weaknesses, their pride, their rigid hierarchy. We can use that against them. Zixlara, who had been observing silently, spoke up. Your growth exceeds our wildest expectations. Perhaps you are ready for the next phase. The humans and Kexatra turned to the ethereal, curiosity burning in their eyes. It is time, Zixlara continued, for you to meet the other species who have joined our cause, to forge the alliances that will determine the fate of the galaxy. As they prepared to depart for a secret gathering of resistance forces, Elena, Marcus, and Kexatra felt the weight of responsibility settling on their shoulders. They had come so far from their chance encounter on a desolate world, and now found themselves at the center of a galactic conflict. But as they looked at each other, they knew that together, they could face whatever challenges lay ahead. The human touch, combined with Kexatra's strength and the ethereal's ancient wisdom, just might be the key to saving the galaxy from the darkness that threatened to engulf it. Little did they know that their greatest test was yet to come, as the true nature of the threat they faced would soon be revealed, shaking their newfound alliance to its very core. Secrets of the Kethori. The secret gathering of resistance forces took place on a hidden world deep within the celestial veil, a massive nebula that scrambled most long-range sensors. As Elena, Marcus, and Kexatra stepped off the ethereal ship, they were greeted by a sight that took their breath away. Beings from dozens of species milled about in a massive biodome, each more alien and fascinating than the last. There were crystalline entities that seemed to float on air, massive gas-bag creatures that communicated through color changes, and even a species of sentient plant life that moved with surprising grace. This is incredible, Elena breathed, her enhanced senses taking in every detail. Marcus nodded, his tactical mind already assessing potential allies and threats. It's a regular galactic melting pot, but I wonder how many of them are actually ready for war. Kexatra, towering over most of the assembled beings, felt a mix of emotions he was still learning to process. So many species, the Kethori always taught us we were alone in our superiority. Zixlara materialized beside them. That is the great lie of the Kethori Empire. They believe themselves to be the pinnacle of evolution, destined to rule over all others. It is this arrogance that makes them such useful pawns for the true enemy. Before they could ask more about this enigmatic true enemy, they were approached by a being that seemed to be made of living metal. Its voice resonated with a metallic timbre as it spoke. "Greetings, humans, and Kithori War Dog. I am Sanvex of the Cybernetic Collective. Your presence here is most unexpected." Elena stepped forward, extending a hand in greeting. "I'm Elena, this is Marcus, and our friend here is Kexatra. We're here to help in any way we can." Sanvex's eye sensors whirred as it studied them. "Fascinating. Your biosigns indicate significant enhancements, yet you retain your organic nature. And you, War Dog, your cybernetics are elegant, far more advanced than typical Kthori work." Kexatra nodded. "The ethereals have improved upon my original design. I am no longer bound by Kthori limitations." As they conversed, Marcus noticed a commotion near the center of the gathering. A holographic display had sprung to life, showing a Kthori battle fleet engaging with what appeared to be ethereal ships. "What's going on?" he asked, moving closer to get a better view. A reptilian being with iridescent scales answered, its forked tongue flicking nervously. "The Kithori have launched a major offensive. They're pushing into ethereal space, destroying everything in their path." Elena's eyes glowed as she interfaced with the data stream. "This doesn't make sense. The Kithori fleet is operating with a level of coordination I wouldn't have thought possible. It's like they're all of one mind." Kexatra's cybernetic implants whirred as he analyzed the tactical display. "This is not standard Kithori doctrine. Something has changed." Zixlara's form pulsed with concern. "It is as we feared. The ancient enemy has begun to exert direct control over the Kithori. We are running out of time." Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the biodome. A panicked voice came over the communication system. Multiple hyperspace signatures detected. Kthori ships incoming. Chaos erupted as the assembled beings scrambled for defensive positions. Marcus, his enhanced tactical senses kicking into overdrive, shouted over the din. "How did they find us?" This location was supposed to be secret. Elena, her mind racing through possible scenarios, suddenly went pale. "Oh no, Kex, your cybernetics. Could the Kithori have planted a tracking device so deep we missed it?" Kexatra's 6 eyes widened in realization. "It is possible. The Kithori built failsafes into all their creations. I thought the ethereals had removed them all." Before anyone could respond, the biodome's shield flickered and failed. Kithori drop pods began raining from the sky, smashing through the transparent ceiling and disgorging heavily armed troops. "Defensive positions," Marcus yelled, his voice carrying an authority that cut through the panic. "Elena, see if you can get those shields back online. Kex, you're with me. We need to buy time for the others to evacuate." As the battle erupted around them, Kexatra found himself face to face with a squad of Kithori soldiers. For a moment, he hesitated. These were his creators, his former masters. But as he looked at their eyes, he saw something that chilled him to his core. There was no intelligence there, no spark of individuality. They moved with robotic precision, their actions controlled by some unseen force. "They are not themselves," Zixlara's voice echoed in Kexatra's mind. "The ancient enemy has taken control. They must be stopped, for their own sake as well as ours." With a roar that shook the very air, Kexatra charged into battle. His enhanced strength and speed, combined with his intimate knowledge of Kithori tactics, made him a whirlwind of destruction. Marcus fought beside him, his predictive abilities allowing him to anticipate and counter every move the enemy made. Elena, meanwhile, had interfaced directly with the biodome's systems. Her consciousness raced through circuitry and code, battling against an insidious presence that seemed to anticipate her every move. "There's something in the system," she called out. "Some kind of AI, incredibly advanced. It's blocking my every attempt to restore the shields." As the battle raged, a Sanvex of the Cybernetic Collective approached Kexatra. War Dog, I believe I can isolate the tracking signal within you. But to do so, I must temporarily deactivate your cybernetic systems. You will be vulnerable. Kexatra didn't hesitate. Do it. I will not be the cause of more death this day. As Sanvex worked, Kexatra felt his enhanced abilities slip away. He was once again just a biological entity, strong but no match for the cybernetically enhanced K'Thori troops. Yet he stood his ground, fighting with a ferocity born of desperation and newfound loyalty. Just as it seemed the defenders would be overwhelmed, Elena's voice rang out in triumph. I've done it. Shields are back online. The remaining K'Thori forces found themselves trapped within the biodome, cut off from reinforcement. What followed was a brutal room-to-room battle, with the resistance forces slowly gaining the upper hand. In the aftermath, as the wounded were tended to and prisoners secured, Marcus approached one of the captured K'Thori soldiers. Why? He demanded. Why attack us like this? What could you possibly gain? The K'Thori's eyes, once vacant, now filled with confusion and fear. I don't know. The last thing I remember, we received new orders from High Command. Then, nothing. It was like I was watching my body move, but I had no control. Zixlara materialized, its form dimmed with exhaustion. It is the influence of the ancient enemy. They seek to control all sentient life, to create a galaxy of slaves to their will. Elena, her face grim, looked at the assembled resistance leaders. We need to know more about this enemy, and we need to find a way to free the K'Thori from their control. This isn't just about winning a war anymore. It's about saving an entire species from enslavement. Kexatra, his cybernetics slowly coming back online thanks to Sanvex's work, nodded sullenly. I was created to be a weapon, but you have shown me I can be more. We must offer the same chance to all K'Thori. As the resistance forces regrouped and planned their next move, a sense of grim determination settled over them. The true nature of their enemy was becoming clear, and the stakes were higher than ever. But in the unity of the assembled species, in the courage of beings willing to fight for more than just themselves, there was hope. The battle for the galaxy's future had truly begun, and at its heart stood an unlikely trio, 2 humans and a war dog, bound by friendship and a shared determination to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The galactic threat. In the days following the K'Thori attack, the resistance base buzzed with activity. Species that had once been bitter rivals now worked side by side, united by a common enemy. Elena, Marcus, and Kexatra found themselves at the center of it all, their unique abilities and perspective making them invaluable to the war effort. Elena spent countless hours interfacing with the captured K'Thori technology, searching for clues about the nature of the ancient enemy that controlled them. Her enhanced mind sifted through terabytes of data in seconds, making connections that would have taken others years to discover. One day, as she emerged from a particularly deep dive into the K'Thori battle logs, her eyes wide with realization, she called an emergency meeting of the resistance leadership. I found something, she announced, her voice trembling slightly. The entity controlling the K'Thori, it's not just some advanced AI or distant puppet master. It's a collective consciousness, a hive mind of incredible power and age. Marcus leaned forward, his tactical mind already racing. How old are we talking? Elena projected a holographic timeline that stretched back millions of years. According to the data I've uncovered, this entity calls itself the Omega Convergence. It's been manipulating galactic events for eons, slowly guiding the evolution of species towards a singular goal. Kexatra, who had been silently processing the information, spoke up. What goal? Assimilation, Elena replied grimly. The Omega Convergence believes that the only way to achieve true peace and progress is for all sentient life to be absorbed into its collective consciousness. It sees individuality as a flaw, a source of conflict and chaos. The assembled leaders murmured in shock and disbelief. Zixlara's form pulsed rapidly, a sign of deep distress. This explains much. The ethereal collective has long sensed a guiding force behind galactic events, but we never imagined its true nature or scope. Marcus, ever practical, cut to the chase. So how do we fight something like that? It's not like we can just blow up a hive mind. Elena nodded. That's the real challenge. The Omega Convergence doesn't have a physical form, at least not in the way we understand it. It exists as a network of quantum-entangled particles spread throughout the galaxy. Every being it assimilates becomes a new node in that network, expanding its reach and power. Paxanvex of the cybernetic collective interjected, its metallic voice tinged with concern. If this is true, then the Cathori are not our true enemy. They are victims, as much as any of us. Kexatra, who had been uncharacteristically quiet, suddenly stood. His massive form seemed to radiate determination. Then we must free them. I was able to break free of my conditioning thanks to the humans and the ethereals. We must find a way to do the same for all Cathori. Elena's eyes lit up. Kex, that's it. Your neural architecture, combined with the enhancements the ethereals gave you. We might be able to use that as a template to create a counter-signal, something that could disrupt the Omega Convergence's control over the Cathori. Marcus, catching on quickly, added, and if we can free the Cathori, we'd be dealing a massive blow to the Convergence's plans. They'd lose their primary military force in one fell swoop. Zixlera's form brightened with hope. It is a bold plan, but one that carries great risk. To implement such a counter-signal, we would need to get close to the heart of Cathori space. Their homeworld is one of the most heavily defended planets in the galaxy. A hush fell over the assembled leaders as they contemplated the enormity of the task before them. It was Kexatra who broke the silence, his voice filled with a resolve that surprised even him. I will go, he said simply. I know Cathori defenses better than anyone. With Elena's tech skills and Marcus's tactical abilities, we stand a chance of infiltrating their central command and broadcasting the counter-signal. Elena and Marcus exchanged a look, years of partnership allowing them to communicate volumes in a single glance. They nodded in unison. We're in, Elena said. All the way. The next few weeks were a flurry of activity. Elena worked tirelessly to develop the counter-signal, using Kexatra's unique neural patterns as a foundation. Marcus pored over every scrap of intelligence they had on Cathori defenses, devising and discarding countless infiltration plans. The rest of the resistance threw their full support behind the mission. The cybernetic collective provided cutting-edge stealth technology to mask their approach. The gaseous Cypherians offered to create a massive ionic storm to disrupt Cathori long-range sensors. Even the crystalline Luminians, usually peaceful to a fault, volunteered to launch a diversionary attack to draw away Cathori fleet elements. As the day of the mission approached, Elena, Marcus, and Kexatra found themselves standing before a sleek, experimental ship that would carry them into the heart of enemy territory. It was a hybrid of technologies from a dozen different species, a testament to what could be achieved when the galaxy's diverse inhabitants worked together. Well, Marcus said, a hint of his old humor creeping into his voice, I always wanted to see the galaxy. Didn't quite picture it happening like this, though. Elena laughed, the sound tinged with both nervousness and excitement. Just think of it as the ultimate field trip, with, the fate of all sentient life hanging in the balance. Kexatra, who had been learning to appreciate human humor, added dryly, at least the travel accommodations have improved since my Cathori days. As they prepared to board, Zixlara approached. The ethereal's form seemed to shimmer with an intensity they hadn't seen before. What you are about to attempt, it goes beyond bravery. You carry with you the hopes of countless beings across the galaxy. Know that whatever happens, you have already changed the course of history by showing what can be achieved when different species work together in harmony. With those words echoing in their minds, Elena, Marcus, and Kexatra boarded their ship. As the engines hummed to life and the hangar bay doors opened to reveal the star-studded expanse of space, they felt the weight of their mission settle upon them. They were three unlikely heroes, two humans from a planet that had barely begun to explore its own solar system, and a genetically engineered war dog who had found a new purpose. Yet here they were, about to embark on a mission that would determine the fate of the galaxy. As their ship accelerated towards its first jump point, none of them spoke. They didn't need to. The bond between them, forged in the fires of adversity and strengthened by shared purpose, said more than words ever could. The final battle for the future of all sentient life was about to begin, and at its heart stood a trio bound by friendship, loyalty, and a shared belief that individuality was worth fighting for, no matter the cost. Humanity's stand. The journey to the Cathori homeworld was fraught with tension. Elena, Marcus, and Kexatra's ship darted through contested space, narrowly avoiding detection multiple times. As they approached their target, the enormity of their task began to sink in. By the cosmic egg, Kexatra rumbled, his 6 eyes widening as they took in the massive defense grid surrounding the Cathori homeworld. I knew our defenses were formidable, but this is beyond anything I remember. Marcus nodded grimly, his enhanced tactical senses already identifying weak points and patrol patterns. The Omega Convergence has been busy. They've turned this entire system into a fortress. Elena, her mind interfaced directly with the ship's systems, frowned in concentration. I'm detecting quantum fluctuations throughout the grid. It's like the entire defense network is entangled with the convergence itself. As they debated their approach, alarms suddenly blared throughout the ship. Multiple contacts incoming. Elena shouted, her eyes glowing as she processed a flood of data. They've detected us. Impossible, Kexatra growled. Our stealth systems are useless against the convergence, Marcus finished, his hands flying over the tactical controls. It's not seeing us with technology, it's sensing us through its connection to the Cathori. What followed was a harrowing chase through the outer defense grid. Marcus's predictive abilities allowed him to anticipate the enemy's moves, while Elena's direct interface with the ship pushed its systems beyond their designed limits. Kexatra, drawing on millennia of Cathori military knowledge implanted in his genes, provided crucial insights that kept them one step ahead of their pursuers. Just when it seemed they might break through, a massive battlecruiser materialized directly in their path. Brace for impact. Marcus yelled, but it was too late. The enemy's tractor beam locked onto their ship, drawing them inexorably towards the gaping maw of its hangar bay. As the small resistance vessel was swallowed by the enormous Cathori ship, Elena, Marcus, and Kexatra exchanged determined looks. Well, Elena said, a wry smile on her face, I guess we're doing this the hard way. Was there ever any doubt? Marcus replied, checking the charge on his weapon. Kexatra's massive form seemed to swell with resolve. Whatever happens, my friends, it has been an honor to fight alongside you. The moment their ship touched down in the battlecruiser's hangar, they sprang into action. Elena's technopathic abilities allowed her to confuse the ship's internal sensors, while Marcus's combat precognition made him nearly untouchable in the close quarters of the ship's corridors. Kexatra was a force of nature, his enhanced strength and intimate knowledge of Cathori ship layouts clearing a path through waves of defenders. As they fought their way towards the ship's central command, Elena suddenly staggered, her eyes wide with shock. The convergence, she gasped. I can feel it. It's trying to get into my mind. Kexatra moved to support her, his massive frame shielding her from enemy fire. Resist, Elena. Your mind is your own. Marcus, covering their rear, called out, We're almost there, just a little further. With a final burst of effort, they breached the command center. The scene that greeted them was unlike anything they had expected. Instead of Cathori officers, the bridge was filled with a pulsing, ethereal energy that seemed to bend and distort the very fabric of reality. At the center of it all stood a figure that defied description. It shifted and changed, one moment appearing as a Cathori, the next as an ethereal, then cycling through countless other forms. "Welcome," the figure said, its voice resonating on multiple levels. "We are the Omega Convergence. We have been expecting you." Elena stepped forward, the counter-signal device clutched tightly in her hand. "Then you know why we're here. We won't let you enslave the galaxy." The figure's form rippled with what might have been amusement. "Enslave? No, you misunderstand. We offer salvation, unity, an end to conflict and suffering." "At the cost of free will," Marcus retorted. "At the cost of everything that makes us who we are." Etc., his voice filled with newfound conviction, added, "I was created to be a perfect soldier, without choice or individuality. These humans showed me there is another way, a better way." The Convergence's form pulsed rapidly. "Ah, the war dog who broke his chains. You are an anomaly, a flaw in the grand design. But soon you will understand. Soon you will all be part of us." Tendrils of energy began to reach out towards them, seeking to entangle their minds with the vast consciousness of the Convergence. Elena, her face contorted with effort, raised the counter-signal device. "Now, Marcus," she shouted. Marcus slammed his hand down on the ship's communication array, broadcasting on all frequencies. At the same moment, Elena activated the device. The effect was immediate and dramatic. The energy tendrils recoiled as if burned. Throughout the ship, throughout the entire Cathori fleet, individuals who had been under the Convergence's control suddenly found themselves free. The figure at the center of the command center writhed in apparent agony. What have you done?" it demanded, its voice losing its multi-layered resonance. "We've given them a choice," Elena said, her voice strong despite the strain evident on her face. "The choice you never gave them." All around them, liberated Cathori were coming to their senses, looking around in confusion and dawning horror as they realized what they had been part of. But the battle was far from over. The Omega Convergence, though weakened, was not defeated. Its form began to coalesce, drawing energy from reserves hidden throughout the galaxy. "You think this victory?" It snarled, its voice now a cacophony of discordant tones. "We have existed for eons. We will not be undone by the actions of insignificant creatures such as yourselves." As the Convergence gathered its strength for a final assault, Elena, Marcus, and Kexatra stood their ground. They were joined by the newly freed Cathori, beings from across the galaxy united in their desire for freedom. "You're wrong," Marcus said, his voice carrying an authority that cut through the chaos. "It's our individuality, our differences, that make us strong. And we're not insignificant, not when we stand together." As if in answer to his words, the ship's long-range sensors lit up. The Resistance fleet, led by the Ethereals and composed of ships from dozens of species, dropped out of hyperspace. They had followed the trail blazed by Elena, Marcus, and Kexatra, ready to join the final battle. The Omega Convergence howled in fury and desperation, lashing out with tendrils of pure energy. But for every attack it launched, there was a defense. The Ethereal's mastery of space-time created bubbles of altered reality that absorbed the energy attacks. The cybernetic collective's advanced AI systems predicted and countered the Convergence's moves. And at the heart of it all, the liberated Cathori turned their formidable military might against their former controller. Elena, her mind linked with the ship's systems and the counter-signal device, began to unravel the quantum entanglement that gave the Convergence its power. Marcus coordinated the battle with uncanny precision, his enhanced tactical abilities allowing the allied fleet to fight as one. And Kexatra, drawing on both his Cathori training and his newfound sense of individual worth, led the charge against the physical manifestations of the Convergence's will. The battle raged across the star system, a spectacular display of energy weapons, reality-warping technologies, and the indomitable will of free beings fighting for their right to exist as individuals. In the end, it was not a single decisive blow that won the day, but the accumulated efforts of countless individuals, each contributing their unique strengths to the cause. The Omega Convergence, its network of control shattered and its core consciousness exposed, began to dissipate. As the energy being that had threatened all sentient life faded from existence, a profound silence fell over the battlefield. Then, slowly at first, but with growing enthusiasm, cheers erupted across the Allied fleet. Beings of all species embraced, celebrating not just their victory, but the bonds they had forged in the crucible of war. On the bridge of the K-Thori battlecruiser, Elena, Marcus, and Kexatra stood in stunned silence, scarcely able to believe that it was over. They had done it. They had saved the galaxy. As the reality of their victory sank in, Elena turned to her companions, tears of joy and exhaustion streaming down her face. "We did it," she said simply. "We really did it." Marcus, his usual stoic demeanor cracking, pulled her into a tight embrace. "We sure did. Not bad for a couple of humans and a reformed war dog, huh?" Kexatra, his massive form seeming to soften, placed one giant paw gently on each of their shoulders. "No," he rumbled, his 6 eyes blinking with emotion. "Not bad at all, my friends." As they stood there, basking in the glow of their hard-won victory, they knew that the real work was just beginning. There would be planets to rebuild, cultures to reconcile, and a new galactic order to establish. But in that moment, looking out at the stars that now held infinite possibilities, they felt ready for whatever challenges lay ahead. For they had learned the most important lesson of all, that true strength comes not from uniformity, but from diversity. That the differences between species, between individuals, were not weaknesses to be overcome, but strengths to be celebrated. And as the Allied fleet began the long journey home, carrying with it the seeds of a new and brighter future, the unlikely trio at the heart of it all, 2 humans and a war dog, knew that they had not just saved the galaxy,